This episode of Xbox Arsenal is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the Boss Rush family of podcasts, head to bossrush.net or our Patreon at patreon.com/bossrushmedia. Thanks for helping us build something better. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Arsenal, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Dirrig, and alongside me, as always, with a fresh cut, Josh Finney.
It's true. I cut all my hair off. They said I cut about 14 inches off.
Ooh.
Yep.
Did you donate it?
I did not because they were like, yeah, we need to straighten it. Like, you needed to fill out some forms, and we got to put it up and things like that. I'm like, next time I will. Sounds
like a lot of work.
You
can't just hand them your hair and say, here?
I had a fairly new person cutting my hair too, so I don't think she really knew what to do for that. So it is what it is, but yeah, man, that was one of the quickest haircuts of my life, though.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah, I was in and out in 15 minutes. I was like, I want my hair cut, but I want to take a lot off. She cut it shorter than I planned. This is at least an inch and a half, 2 inches shorter than I planned. I planned for it to be down past my ears, and well, it didn't get there. So it is what it is. I'm fine. My hair grows fast enough. It's all good.
Are you gonna grow it out again?
Not as long as I did. No. I had actually planned to cut it around the last Christmas. I had planned to cut it. After I got my mom's diagnosis, though, I kept it long just to mess with her. And then, crippling depression kept me from going and getting it cut for a while. So I really planned to cut it about 8 months back. I'll probably grow it out to my shoulders again, but that'll be the longest I'll ever let it get. I'll never let it get as long as it did ever again.
My hair, first of all, my hair's gone.
Yes.
On top.
Yes.
But second of all, if I let my hair grow out, it goes out. It doesn't go down. So there's some pretty gnarly pictures of me 12, 15 years ago with it
Well, with how my hair is now, it's funny when I wash it, I have to remember that my hair poofs when I dry it. Mm-hmm. It hasn't done that with how long my hair was. It hadn't done that because it's just the weight of the water. It was just still coming down. But it likes to poof, so sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and it'll just be on one side.
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny. I look like I'm a wannabe Final Fantasy character.
Nice.
Corey, you have show and tell tonight.
I do, Josh. I do. So, we on this here channel, the Boss Rush podcast channel, YouTube channel, we interviewed Jeff Gardner, and for those who don't know, he was a producer on Oblivion and Oblivion and Fallout 3. He was the lead producer on Skyrim and Fallout 4, and he was the project lead on Fallout 76. And he just started a new studio called Something Wicked Games about, a year ago at this point. And they're making a game called Weird Song, which is this kind of medieval fantasy set in Portugal, and it sounds really cool. And so I got a package in the mail today, Josh, and I'll put pictures on social media so if you guys want to see. But I got this really nice water bottle, one of the nice ones with a handle with their logo on it, and I got one of these sweet pull string bags.
It has been a hot minute since I saw a pull string bag. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I still have my Destiny one from launch in my
closet.
Oh my god! Remember those things?
I do remember that. I remember getting that, and that was the only time I ever won something they gave away at GameStop at a midnight release. I got one of the marketing posters, which has since been lost to time. Through I've moved about 5 or 6 times since then. It's just been lost over time. Little upset. It was the generic Destiny logo. It's literally the shot that we got at the end of Season of the Seraph, where the Traveler is above Earth. It was that, but with Destiny across. little bummed that I don't have that now.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have had that. It was good. It was heavy duty.
Yeah. It was a good bag. It's a good bag. Mine has a hole in it though, so. But also, I've moved like 4 times since I got it, and you know, it's. I mean, it's a pull string bag. What do you want from it? You know, it's not like it's gonna carry your entire life.
I mean,
around.
even a lot of backpacks that are given away like that are cheaply made. So,
yeah. But, anyways, shout out to Jeff and Something Wicked Games. I'll reach out and try to get him on this show, Josh.
I would love that.
You and him could. Well, I'm sure you and him could talk about Fallout and Skyrim for 3 hours, and then turn around and talk about Diablo 4 for another 5.
Probably.
So
I have played a lot of Diablo this summer.
Yeah. So I'll reach out. We'll see if we can get him on here. So if you're listening to the audio podcast, I actually put that interview on last week. So on this feed. So if you guys want to go listen to it, you can. Josh, before we dive into all this news, crazy, a lot of news happened, and
oh my god,
it's not just the FTC stuff. You playing anything interesting or fun or any demos that dropped?
I started playing Exoprimal this weekend.
Oh yeah, how's that?
Apparently my view is a lot different from just about anybody else who's playing the game. I think it's bad. This is like the most 5 out of 10 video game I think I've ever played in my life.
Oh yeah, see, I heard it was bad from a few people.
It's rough. I've seen a lot of people, a shocking amount of people, like, enjoy it. And so I was playing it with our friend Ray, and it was kind of fun with him. But if you don't get a good team, like, you're screwed. You're screwed right away. It's so imbalanced. We were going up against guys who are like level 30 or 40 already.
What?
On like day 2. Yeah. They have also, the game is like super monetized. There's a whole battle pass system. There's individual skins you can buy. It's just like, I don't know. It feels a little gross. It's really hard to figure out how to party up in the game. I'm not a fan of it. Shooting dinosaurs is only fun for so long, as in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll play it. I'll probably play the Street Fighter collab when it comes out later this month, and then I'm going to put it down. When they do the Monster Hunter crossover later this year, which they've already announced, though, I'll 100% pick it back up. Just because I want to see if I can fight a Rathos with a mech suit.
Yeah.
I think that would be really fun, but we'll see. That, of course, would be something cool that this game could do.
Yeah.
I think Ray said it the best. If this was a movie, I'd absolutely watch this, just with its silly, ridiculous premise.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm playing. I'm playing Exoprimal, and not playing anything else right now.
Nice. I booted up that Sea of Stars demo.
Man, I didn't play any of the demos from the ID at Xbox event, unfortunately.
Yeah, like I played it and I was like, man, I want to play this so bad, but I want to wait for the original game because I don't think the progress carries over. And I'm like, and that's the thing I don't like about some demos is like, I would totally play this demo to get used to it, but then I'm gonna have to replay it, and I don't like replaying sections, So I played it for about 20 minutes and was like, I get what it's doing. I like it. It's cool. I'm sold already. Plus, it's coming to Game Pass, so.
I mean so the demo did what it was supposed to do, though.
Yeah,
I would argue. There were a couple I wanted to play, and I was just like, okay, fine. I missed out on them, but I think all the ones I wanted to play are coming to Game Pass anyways. So I'm not too freaked out. Not that we've been like really in a drought. It's funny, like July, it feels like we can call July a drought right now because we've just been like nonstop firing for like months now. Like every like 2 weeks there's a new major AAA release or a big Game Pass release or something, and it's just like, it's been nice to just like catch my breath for the last couple weeks after finishing Final Fantasy 16.
I know.
And now I'm like, oh crap, this is probably like the last real chance I'm going to have to work on my backlog, like maybe ever. So like for a couple of like, probably for the next year. So it's like, okay, I think for like the next 4 weeks, I'm just going to like sit down. It's heresy to say on an Xbox Bob. I'm going to sit down. I'm just going to blow through my PS5 backlog. I've got Ratchet and Clank waiting. I've got Horizon Forbidden West waiting. I want to play the Ghost of Tsushima DLC, which I never got back to. I'll get Kenna Bridge of Spirits downloaded. I'm ready to go, man. I've got like 4 or 5 quality games, and I know that I'm not going to finish them all, but I just like, I want to be able to play enough to be like, yeah, I played this. I can make a good judgment. I got Ghostwire Tokyo downloaded on my Xbox.
Nice.
I really just want to like get through some of these, because once we hit like that 3rd week of August, that's it.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. I'm done. Like, we've got a new Destiny season. We've got a reveal event happening. And at that point, I'm on the 1-week countdown to Starfield. So,
right.
Like, Baldur's Gate got moved up if you have a PC. I do not have a PC, so that does not help me at all. Baldur's Gate's still coming out the same day as Starfield.
Yeah. So, actually, you want to... I was going to play Final Fantasy 16, but my PlayStation won't turn on, so...
Yikes.
Yeah, so it's 4 to 6 weeks. Goodbye.
So my controller borked itself after like less than 100 hours of playing on my PS5. I had stick drift, but it was so severe I couldn't even go to like the main menu.
Yeah.
Of the console. It would just immediately go all the way to the right, like just immediately.
Yeah.
So nothing was playable. And I kind of put it down for a while. A friend of mine sent me a DualSense last year though, and was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna send you a DualSense because I just won a lot of money on a parlay that I placed." He won like $5,000 on a bet, and he was like, "I'm sending you a DualSense." He's like, he's like, "I'm putting a lot of the money away for for my kid and like to do stuff with the family." But he's like, "I'm sending you a DualSense. I'm doing some nice things for a few people, like sending them all like something small." And he's like, "The only thing I'm going to make you promise is that you'll play The Last of Us Part 2 at some point for me, because that's my favorite game ever made." And so I definitely still owe him a playthrough of The Last of Us Part 2, which I've never played. I did not have a PlayStation when that came out, so that may have to be added to the list too, just to like fulfill an obligation.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm already like feeling the crunch of like, I don't have enough time to play all these, so like Horizon may be my first casualty. Yeah. Just because it's so long and so big.
Yeah, it's bigger than the first one for sure.
And I never finished the first one. I got about 12 hours in and said, I'm done. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. I got outside. I got like maybe an hour outside of the starting area and was like, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. But this is the Xbox Arsenal podcast, Corey.
It is, and
we had a very busy week.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about some Xbox things here, Josh. I think we need to address first, Major Nelson, Larry Herb, aka Major Nelson, host of the Xbox podcast,
Xbox Live's Major Nelson. We got to get the full name in there.
Xbox Live's Major Nelson. He's pretty much been the face of the community for 20 years.
Yeah,
more than. And, obviously there's been people that they've brought on, like, Jeff and Rebecca, who's on the Xbox podcast, and then, various other people, Malik and,
Graham.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been a ton of people that have been involved in the community, but he's been there since the beginning. He's the face. And he announced this week that he is stepping down from Xbox, and he's going to start the next chapter of his life.
Larry, I mean, God, talk about an industry legend.
Yeah.
The guy got hired he started his career at Microsoft in 2001 working on MSN Music.
Yeah.
Like, let that sink in for a minute. The dude wasn't even a part of Xbox Live launches. They move him over. But he's a huge reason why we're even podcasting today. He had one of the very first industry podcasts, if not the first major one, especially from a platform holder or publisher.
Yeah, the it was called the Major Nelson podcast, right?
Something like that.
First, and then it moved into the official Xbox podcast.
I remember being really baffled, and I still am to a degree, that Sony and Nintendo kind of did with Kit and Krista.
Yeah, they have the Nintendo Power podcast that comes out once a month now.
But that took like forever to get around to. I mean, they were still committed to print media at the time.
Yeah.
Nintendo rode Nintendo Power into the ground.
Yeah. Well, how they're like 15 years behind on everything. So.
Man, Larry was just like, man, what a pioneer. Because like, I think to the sites that were doing podcasts at the time, and so he launches his IGN starts up some of their most notable podcasts right around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
maybe like within a year of it. Game Scoop starts, Podcast Beyond starts, NVC starts, but it's wild that he became so synonymous with the Xbox brand. Like I would argue that outside of Peter Moore, there wasn't anybody else that you knew. Him and Jay Allard were like the only other two that you really knew at Xbox.
Yeah.
And even them, like through the 360 year, I mean, Jay leaves pretty early on.
Yeah.
Peter Moore left towards the end of the generation. You know, he left. We laughed because he left to go work for Liverpool.
Yeah.
He went to go run a football club. And then, of course, you know, after that, we went through the dark years with Phil Harrison and Don Matrick at the helm until Phil kind of emerged. But I would argue he was the face of Xbox for at least the entire 360 gen and well into Xbox One. It wasn't really until the community really like kind of rallied around Phil as a figurehead.
Yeah.
When there started being whispers of him taking over Xbox, that it was like, oh, Larry kind of got to like step back a little bit, because it got to the point where he was doing more than I think what his job needed him to do.
Oh yeah.
But I will forever be upset because this means that the next time that we get an Xbox product launch, he's not going to have the gloves on and do an unboxing.
I know.
Whenever Larry broke out the gloves, you knew good shit was about to happen.
He did it with the ROG Ally. That was the last thing he's ever going to
unbox. God, I completely missed that. I'm going to need to go watch that then, because Larry's videos used to be the thing that I waited for the most around product launches.
Yeah.
It was just so great. His Xbox One unboxing is my all-time favorite thing to watch. That is just so great because he's like detailing it. He's like very PR focused, but it came out around the time of Gamescom, and it was just like, yeah, I got one right off the line. And he was just so excited to be doing it. Had the gloves on so that he didn't smear anything. Oh, it was great. Yeah. It was great. The close-up angles. But you look at how that whole department has really grown. And it's crazy. Like, I mean, you look at some of the people you have working at Xbox Wire, you look at the social team. I mean, like, look at the work Stein's doing with social. Look at, you talk about memory, like Malik is one of the guys they have up and coming as a host,
Yeah.
Tina Amini runs Xbox Wire now.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy the amount of talent that they have stockpiled over like the last 5 to 10 years. And you don't get to that point without Larry being who he is.
Oh, no way. I think it's very understated how influential not just Larry and the community team have been, but Xbox has been in general since the brand started. And this, I mean, creating a community, I think maybe he even took a little bit of a page from Bungie at the time, right? With Bungie.net and having that community, but also like doing it his own way, like really servicing the community. I remember, it's funny because the last PAX I went to, which I want to say was 2017. It was right before my daughter was born, 2018. Yeah, 2018. And it was right before State of Decay came out, State of Decay 2. And me and our friend Mitch, who we play Destiny with, we were playing State of Decay and trying to test it out and everything. He walks up he's in the booth playing it with everybody. And like, I was like trying not to die. And I was like, I got to get my phone. I got to take a picture. This is awesome. And then like, he ended up leaving before I could do that. But that was like one of the coolest moments. And that was, I mean, he didn't have to do that. What executive or what higher up does that,
Yeah, I mean, he has just he's been all over the place. Like he embraced social media before a lot of people in the industry did. I mean, he was on Twitter from the beginning. But I mean, this dude has been all over the place. I didn't realize he's 65.
He does not look
65.
that.
Like, this dude's probably retiring, in all honesty. Like, that's probably the next step of his career. But he's also a consultant.
Oh, yeah.
On top of that. Man, he's just... The Xbox community is worse off for Major Nelson not being around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I know that sounds a little wild to say about a guy who hosts podcasts, but he's been such a huge part of the community for so long that that's a void that I don't think is going to get filled anytime soon.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not just hosting a podcast; it's the personality. It's the fact that you were the face of the brand for so long, like kind of unwittingly too.
Yeah,
like you kind of just like stumbled into that, but you loved the community so much. Like he went to midnight launches all over the world.
Yeah.
I saw people talking about. I think it was who was it? Shinobi on Twitter. I think was talking about this. I want to say it was for the 360 launch. He was saying, "Hey, I remember meeting," or the Xbox One launch or something. I guess it was Xbox One. He's like, "I met you." He's like, "I remember meeting you at the mall in Orlando, getting my Xbox One console on launch night." He's like, I got a chance to talk with you, and that was a really cool memory. And like, all sorts of people were sharing memories. Like, I met you at Halo launches, or at like the 360 launch. I remember the 0 hour deal in the desert, and I remember meeting you at E3s, or at live Xbox shows, this and that at PAXs, and that's such a cool thing. Like he was the cool uncle who worked at Microsoft.
Yeah. Larry was great. And I know we have like Phil and Sarah and Aaron Greenberg and, all these people now, but like nobody's ever going to hit, I think, especially like old school Xbox fans like Larry. So, Larry, good luck on your next chapter. We'll miss you. You're a big part of our Xbox lives. No pun intended. Pun intended. And can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see what he does next. Who he, even if it's just in a consulting gig, I'm excited to see who he talks with. I would love to read, kind of like how we got the Soroto Iwata memoir. We got we've gotten Kojima's written a book. I would really love this. Reggie's written one. Obviously, Reggie's book's great, by the way.
Yeah, Reggie's book's awesome.
I would love to see one from Larry.
Yeah, I bet one happens. Maybe that's the next chapter.
I really hope it is, because I think he has there's such a wealth of knowledge in his head to share with the next generation. I mean, like the next generation, like beyond us, because obviously, like I don't remember a time. I'm young enough to not remember a time that Larry was not at Xbox or the face of it.
Yeah.
Like going all the way back to the launch of the 360. God, I was like 12, 13 at the time, and I knew who he was at that point.
Yep.
Like, for God's sake, in 2006, he celebrated his 200th podcast, if you want to know how long he's been doing this shit.
Isn't that crazy?
That's wild. That's absolutely wild to me. And podcasts were so in their infancy, and now we make jokes like, oh, everybody's got a podcast. Like, the podcast boom didn't even happen for like another 10 to 12 years.
Right.
So that's just, man, a guy who was just really the last thing I think I can say about him, a guy who was ahead of the curve in every single way, who was ahead of market trends, who saw where tech was going, just always had a keen eye for stuff.
Yeah.
And our industry is lesser without him being in such a prominent role. Like, he had definitely stepped back over the last several years. To kind of let Phil and, like you said, Phil and Sarah kind of take that spot. And especially after the Bethesda purchase, he really stepped back.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's because you've got guys like Pete Hines and Todd Howard, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's also symbolic of what Xbox became. Xbox didn't need a figurehead anymore because they have creatives who can speak to their own stuff now. You have Tim Schafer's you have Tim Schafer's in your country. You have Fergus. You have guys like Josh Sawyer. Like, you have guys who want to interact with the community, and they hadn't really had that before. So,
yeah. Yep. He's man. It's just crazy. It's so crazy. So yeah, I don't know if you have any more to say on this, but.
No, that's about all I've got.
He's going to be missed for sure. I like you said, I hope he writes a book. He's got so much knowledge and interesting things to say, probably, especially like through the ups and downs of the various generations of Xbox. Oh my gosh. But anyways, Major Nelson, we salute you. Can't wait for your next chapter.
Yep.
Oh boy, Josh. Speaking of chapters, with the exit of Major Nelson, Xbox Live Gold is also exiting.
Oh man, a moment of silence for a fallen warrior. Just again, like things that are synonymous with the Xbox brand, Xbox Live.
Yeah. Can we so for those who haven't seen yet, so Xbox Live Gold, which is the what is it, $60 a year now online subscription,
Yes.
is being morphed into Xbox Game Pass Core, which is it's basically Xbox Live Gold, but instead of getting your 2 free games a month, they're giving you 24 high quality console games to play, online play, and like basically the same features and functions as Xbox Live Gold, right? So they're just trying to roll everything into Game Pass, I think, is the
Yes.
and trying to, I think so. I have words about this, but I think they're trying to encourage people to just bump up to Ultimate, and everybody gets Ultimate, and because it's funny because for $1 more, you get regular Game Pass on console, but no online play.
So that's definitely like part of my annoyance with this. I will say that if you buy, so if they do the deal where it's $60 a year if you pay up front, I actually think this is a steal of a deal.
Yeah.
Like this is really, really, really good.
Yeah.
For those who just like you just want to play Call of Duty online with your friends, you know. I want to highlight how absurd it is that we have to pay for online console multiplayer in the year 2023. That's completely and totally absurd. But I think like they wanted to come out and have a way to combat PS Plus's lower tier.
Yeah.
I'm not sad to see games with Gold go. That is a program that just Microsoft never really seemed to give a shit about.
I mean, they haven't since Game Pass started, at least.
You had one solid year of it, and it was pretty soon after they announced original Xbox games would be brought to backwards compatibility, because they did a whole year where it was like every month you were getting old Star Wars games, it felt like. And so like I have every backwards compatible Star Wars game because they were all given away.
Yeah.
That was cool. Like we got Breakdown given to us. You got some classic 360 games in there, but the Xbox One games never really lived up to the expectation. Like you look at, for example, you look at whatever they have this. I can't even tell you what they have this month. I think it's like Adios and something else.
Mm-hmm.
Over on PS Plus, you're getting Black Ops Cold War. you're getting Black Ops Cold War, Alan Wake Remastered, and Endling Extinction is Forever. Like what on earth? So for PS Plus Essentials, you just get your PS Plus games. You don't get anything else. So this kind of combats that tier, but I will say, I think they should have just gotten rid of it altogether and just made console Game Pass with multiplayer be the base tier. There should only be 3 tiers. It should be console, PC, or Ultimate. That's all it should be. There's no reason for Core to exist. Even if I think that the library there is actually really good as an intro to Game Pass.
Yeah.
It's almost all first-party stuff. There's only 2 games that are not first-party, but there is a game from every single studio that they own. Actually, there's 4 games on here that are not first-party games. But you look at this, and I mean, Among Us, Descenders, Dishonored 2, Doom Eternal, Fable Anniversary, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, Grounded, Halo 5, Halo Wars 2, Hellblade, Human Fall Flat, Inside, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Psychonauts 2, State of Decay 2, ESO, Tamriel Unlimited. That is as good of a Game Pass intro as I can possibly expect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty good list.
That's a great list. That is a great list to intro somebody to Xbox and to get them interested in some of the IPs. And they have said they're going to add more games 2 or 3 more times this year.
Mm-hmm.
That being, and I expect that some of those will come after the Activision deal closes. They'll probably put the most recent Call of Duty they possibly can on it.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it'll be like last year's Call of Duty or something.
Yeah, so we'll get into that with the FTC stuff, but I suspect it's going to have to be further back for legality reasons. Yeah. And I think like things like Diablo 3 will be on there, right? Mm-hmm. But I just don't understand why you wouldn't just make for $1 more, like you said, console. But this is deliberately designed to get you to just fork out for Ultimate, and that feels like kind of scummy.
Yeah, it's definitely
it does say here Game Pass Core $10 a month or $60 US per year.
Mm-hmm.
It does say that here.
It's definitely a choice, especially because, like, I mean, why wouldn't you just fold the Core into the console one and give people online with that one? You know,
I mean, that would be my take. I would be willing to bet that you would get more subs that way too.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a way that on paper they want to say, see, look, we had a big spike on paper.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't know.
This kind of feels like they want to, kind of want to say that they have their Game Pass numbers boosted.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
And I don't know, man. The thing that kills me though is the $10.99 for console with no online play. That's the one.
That's silly, and they rightfully should be dragged.
Yeah, that's especially because like PC Game Pass. I mean, PC you don't need on pay for online anyway. So I don't know, man. And I understand that like the paying for online on consoles is the subsidized stuff, but like just include it in the console one. Even if you have to charge $11.99 for the console one, just put online in there, because like there's no way to play online now unless you get Ultimate or Core. There's no in between option.
Yeah, this is bad. This is bad. I think that the idea is good. I want to be very clear. The idea behind it is good for the year 2001. Or not 2021, excuse me. The idea is good for 2021. This, if you would have done this during the pandemic, holy shit. Can you imagine? Like, you wouldn't have had the Bethesda games as part of that, but you could have had a very similar package in 2021.
Yeah.
Instead, you're doing this now, and it doesn't feel like you're playing catch up. It does feel like, okay, your base offering is better. It is better than PS Plus, Essential.
Yeah.
It is just as confusing. It is just as baffling. It is just as bad. I just don't know. For all the great decisions that they've made around Xbox Live for all these years, and the good decisions they made around Game Pass, this is a bad one. Why on earth would you do this?
Right.
And it's not even like, why would you do this? Like, I get why you would do this, but pricing it at $10 a month looks really silly when for $1 more you get like 6 times the library, but no online play. Like, so they're basically telling you, if you plan to play online ever, your option, and you want Game Pass, your option is Ultimate. This has to get walked back.
Yeah.
I wonder how fast that's going to take them to walk back, because like, yes, this is good on paper. This is really bad execution though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a choice for sure. I'm kind of disappointed in the choice. It almost would have been better if you had no online play for Core and then you gave people online play for console.
I think that would have caused a problem for those of us who aren't chronically online. Well, honestly,
I think especially because a lot of the games that I think, especially kids, right, like play, like Fortnite, is free to play. And, a lot of these battle royales are free to play, and Halo is free to play, and stuff like Destiny is free to play, where like you don't need an Xbox Live Gold subscription to play those, and this would be a better way to get people into the ecosystem. And then if you want to upgrade, I don't know. This just feels weird. I don't like it.
This feels weird, and with there being multiple tiers now, it almost makes me wonder if they're going to start restricting certain games to Ultimate down the line, aka Call of Duty.
Yeah.
The newest Call of Duty could be locked to Ultimate, which wouldn't shock me. I'm actually a little surprised they aren't pulling this with Starfield, to be honest with you.
Yeah, when they acquired Bethesda, I thought maybe the like Xbox Game Studios games will be on Game Pass, but if you want Bethesda's games, you have to pay for Ultimate, and if you want Activision Blizzard's game, you have to pay for Ultimate. That's where I thought that was.
I do suspect that you're gonna run into that case pretty soon, and I think it's gonna be with Activision.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll walk back Bethesda, because again, I think that like that acquisition is totally different than the Activision one. But I would say like that, or like if it's like a major third party game, I could see that being restricted to Ultimate.
Yeah.
Something like Silksong, I could see being restricted to Ultimate. Just like, as when it comes out, it's going to be the biggest indie of the year, right?
Yeah.
Or something like I don't think they'll do this, but with like Persona, but if, say, Outriders had been exclusive to Ultimate.
Yeah.
There are things that I could see be getting that restriction in the future. But, I mean, if you put Call of Duty on there and it's an exclusive, like, people will follow. You already have the deal with EA, which is only available through Ultimate. So adding Call of Duty, well, that's, kind of a dream destination for a lot of these people who buy, like, 3 games a year.
Yeah.
If you can get it all in one sub. Get it all out of one sub and buy 2K on its own.
Yeah.
So, I'm not quite sure who this is for. It's a good idea. It's just like 2 or 3 years too late.
Yeah.
And it would be fine if the next step up, and to be honest, we would be having a completely different conversation if Game Pass console had online play included, which it was always weird that it didn't.
Yeah. That's the kicker. That's the only thing that's wrong with this whole thing.
Because, basically you're paying extra at that point for when you pay for Ultimate over Game Pass console, you're paying $6 more a month for $5 or $6 more a month for EA Play, for cloud streaming, and for online play.
Yeah. Well, and the ability to switch between PC and console, I guess, too.
Yeah, you get. It is. I will be honest. Like, it is a really good value, and I think they want people to see that. But as we found out in the FTC filings, a lot of people don't use cloud at all.
Yeah,
we use cloud to try games out or to get really quick Microsoft reward points while we're traveling.
Yeah, I also use it to try out a game if I'm interested in it, but that's very rare. Yeah. Very, very rare, especially on my phone. Right.
At this point, it's just I have such fast internet; it's just quicker for me to download it. Honestly, most of the time.
Yeah. I also use it if I'm downloading a game and I want to play it right away.
That's fair.
So, I did that with Redfall, although I don't know. I don't know if I played it after it was done downloading. So,
God, Redfall.
Oh, sorry, Redfall.
I should have played Exoprimal that way.
Sorry, Redfall.
Do we have any more thoughts on this, or do we want to move on to the big kahuna?
Yeah, we should probably move on to the big news of the week, because I don't really have anything else to say about this.
I have nothing. We're going to talk ourselves in circles.
Yeah. So, well, Josh, the big news of the week: the FTC lost to Microsoft,
womp womp,
and their appeal was denied. So it seems like this deal is finally finished. We can finally stop talking about.
So you would think that. I got a little bit of clarification on this earlier. The FTC's appeal has not been denied technically. What was denied was their motion to extend the restraining order. They are still in the process. Their appeal has still been filed, but that's going to take months to go through. And there is nothing that says that they cannot close over the FTC on that.
Yeah.
It's once that acquisition of that, then that's why Tom Warren was describing it this way. He says a window is now open. Yeah. If you close within that window, the FTC can still take you to court over it, but it's going to be drastically harder for them to, separate the two now. It's going to be very difficult once that goes through. I saw, and I really want to note this because he was kind of chastising some people who are running around parading themselves as legal experts on Twitter these days, who are getting an awful lot of hits over it from fanboys mainly, but basically being like, better as lawyers than to use some of the language that you're using. There were a lot of people suggesting, well, they can just close over the CMA. No, they can't. Microsoft is a $1 trillion worldwide entity. They have business in front of the CMA on a regular basis. If they close over them on the biggest tech acquisition in history, you know how much they're going to be scrutinized every single time they go in front of them or in front of the CAT tribunal in the UK? That makes you look to every other regulatory agency in the world, especially when it's come out publicly that both of you are working to figure out a deal. And just about an hour before we went live tonight, Bloomberg came out and said, do not expect the deal to close. So by the time you're listening to this, the deal probably will not be closed. Don't expect for it to close. The UK has granted an extension on this. Microsoft requested an extension. They have granted it. It does seem like it'll probably close in the next week or two, but they've got time to come up. They have submitted a proposal to the CMA, from what I understand. CMA has not yet reviewed it. It could close this week. It could close next week. It could close 2 weeks from now. The bottom line is like it's all but done. The only way that Microsoft has to pay up at this point, because we all know about the July 18th deadline. The only way Microsoft has to pay up now is if Activision themselves walks away. And at this point, the board basically can't walk away because it's being held up on one condition at this point, which is cloud rights in the UK, which Microsoft is prepared to sell off.
Yeah.
To not have a monopoly. So at this point, if Activision walks away, their board's going to be crucified and it's going to be pushed through by a new board.
Yeah.
So Bobby K is on his way out of here.
Yep. And is what was the number? $400 million parachute?
It's over $400 million for a golden parachute. So on one hand, I wanted this to fail so he didn't get $400 million because he is genuinely one of the most evil people working in games.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we're getting him away from this company and out from being the overlord of 17,000 employees. He can no longer hold certain platforms or games hostage. I found it personally amusing that it came out this week that he went to Jim Ryan in February 2023 earlier this year to try and get a deal worked out before all the CMA and FTC bullshit started. And he basically told Jim, hey, I want to strike a new deal with you. Basically, in case this falls through, I want to keep the same deal I had with you, like the 80-20 split. And Jim told him to his face, no, because I'm hoping that this fails. Well, that's backfired.
Yeah.
But I do think that Sony probably got a pretty favorable share deal out of this. It's been speculated that the deal that them and Microsoft struck Sunday night is most likely to the tune of a traditional 70-30 split.
Yeah.
That Microsoft's not going to sit there and charge them 80-20, that's the right move. Let's be totally honest.
Yeah.
And that deal is a 10-year deal, the same deal that they gave Nvidia and that they gave Nintendo and all those random ass cloud services that none of us have ever heard of.
Right.
Yeah. And basically have gone
boing or something that was.
I have no idea. I laughed at some of the names. I'm like, I've never heard of these, but whatever helps your case, man.
Yeah.
This is between billion-dollar entities. This does not concern me at all. I'm going to get to continue to play these games. That's all that matters to me. But I think you look at this and you go, oh my God, this is finally ending. That deal is only for Call of Duty for 10 years.
Yeah.
Supposedly the original deal that was floated last year was a contract for all Activision Blizzard games for 10 years. And that was the one that was rejected. I need to find a source on that one because I have not been able to source that one myself. That's, just what I was reading.
Yeah.
That wouldn't shock me. But at the same time, I don't expect too much to change. I really think that Microsoft knows that they have to handle this a lot more delicately than they did the ZeniMax deal. Because look at how they've been raked and drugged through the coals for the last 2 years because they won't commit to 2 games that don't even exist yet if they'll be multi-platform. In Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6. Everyone wants to point to Starfield as the example, and it's like, well, they've pretty publicly avoided saying anything about Elder Scrolls 6 or Fallout 5 because they're like, one of those is in pre-production, the other one's barely an idea at this point.
Yeah.
If I were a betting man, I would say that if it's a classic Activision IP, i.e. Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, I think they still have the Tony Hawk rights.
Yeah. Activision does, yeah.
Call of Duty, obviously, and then, Diablo and Overwatch on the Blizzard side. I would imagine that those all stay multi-platform. I would be absolutely floored if they came out and said Crash Bandicoot is now an Xbox exclusive. And I'd actually be a little mad about that.
Yeah. I
think classic IP like Crash and Spyro that did not even originate on your platform should not be kept off of other platforms.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of the Activision Blizzard stuff's going to stay multi-platform unless it's like a brand new IP. Because Blizzard,
new IPs obviously won't. Those will not go.
Well, Blizzard has that new IP they're working on, right? Supposedly,
that's still so early though.
Yeah, I know.
I can't imagine that going multi-platform. That it'll get Starfielded. The one that I'm kind of watching right now is it came out this week. Jess Corden was kind of confirming that Starfield 3 exists in some shape or form. If that comes to console, Starfield is, of course, an RTS.
You mean
if that
StarCraft?
yeah. StarCraft, whatever. StarCraft 3, StarCraft, Starfield, whatever.
I was gonna say
StarCraft
Starfield 3. Oh
if
my
StarCraft
God.
3 does come to console, I wouldn't be shocked to see it skip PlayStation because it's never been on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Starfield's never been on. Same with Warcraft. Like I think those are the technicalities they'll use to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
As well, this was never on there and this and that. I think when you get into things like Prototype and like the Hexen reboot that we know that Phil was clamoring to do, that's where I think it gets a little foggier. Like, well, do we put this on PlayStation or not? Like the original games were on PlayStation in those series.
Mm-hmm.
Do we do that again?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you reboot Prototype, I doubt they would make like Prototype 3. I bet you would just reboot
Yeah.
that, right?
I would have to say it would be a reboot. Both of those, I think, would be reboots.
I would almost see it be like a Prey situation where it really has nothing to do with the originals. You just make a new story. This is what's going on. Maybe you.
Well, I mean, the original people who made those games have long since moved on.
Oh yeah. So I thought Prototype was a cool idea. It was kind of like a poor man's Infamous at the time.
Yeah, and I mean, we know that part of the reason that Microsoft wanted this was for the IP, right?
Mm-hmm.
The IP and the development studios. I'm almost more now. I want to take a second to talk about this. They are going to get, King and Blizzard, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get 8 studios with Activision, and all 8 of those studios are Call of Duty studios at this point.
Yeah.
What? So, like, let's talk about like what a breakdown looks like between the 4 main studios and the 4 support studios.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Infinity Ward, obviously the flagship studio that works on Call of Duty. They're not dropping Call of Duty.
No.
But they are working on, we know from a job listing last summer that they are working on a RPG of some kind, and they have hired a lead designer for that. As of last summer, there was a team last year, I believe, roughly 15 people working on it at their Krakow office in Poland. So kind of curious to see what shape that takes. And we probably won't see that before the end of the generation. That's probably like a 2026, 2027 game at earliest.
Yeah.
So you gotta figure they stay on Call of Duty also. Treyarch and Sledgehammer are where it gets a little interesting to me because I think Treyarch probably does. I think they probably stay on Call of Duty also, but I think COD is probably going to shift to a 4-year development cycle instead of the 3-year that it's on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that at least one of the studios between Treyarch and Sledgehammer is going to be dropped from Call of Duty once this deal goes through.
Yeah,
I would bet that it's Sledgehammer just because their games have been like the least well received.
Yeah, I could see that.
So they did Vanguard. They're throwing together this year's on a 2-year timeline instead of 3.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be an expansion pack, not a full-fledged game, and Activision's like, nah, fuck y'all. Y'all are going to make one more big game. It's the last game. Well, it's the last game in the Sony deal, too, and I think that was part of it.
Yeah.
Because that decision was pretty clearly made after the deal to buy Activision came out.
Yeah.
And they like not so subtly confirmed that it's Modern Warfare 3 today, even though they've never confirmed it before.
Yeah.
But they put up a poll like, should we let Modern Warfare 2 operators carry over to this year's game? Yes or yes. If I was a betting man, Sledgehammer is probably going to get pulled off Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much right away and told, hey, you can do whatever you want. Just you need to keep people to support this game until its life cycle is up, which will probably be next fall.
Mm-hmm.
If I were running Activision Blizzard, if I were Phil Spencer coming in there and looking at Activision Blizzard, my first thing would be, all right, Sledgehammer, you're no longer doing Call of Duty once your game's out. You're done. You're done. You're going to provide the support, and you're done. We want to go ahead and pull your narrative designers now and your studio heads, and you guys start brainstorming what kind of game do you want to make.
Mm-hmm.
There are several dormant IPs that you can choose to work on if they wanted to make Prototype, for example.
Yeah.
Speaking
of IP, right?
Yeah.
Do you think, and I've seen a lot of this going around online, and my opinion is that it's not going to happen. But do you think Microsoft after this acquisition would go to like Marvel or Hasbro and try to get those Transformers or Marvel games back somehow?
I think it would depend on how the rights have shaken out at this point.
Yeah.
I would say it would probably be easier to get the Transformers ones than the Marvel ones.
Mm-hmm.
You could. I mean, I think that the hesitation would be that you can't list it to other platforms.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to come in and do like a remaster collection, kind of like they did with Crash and Spyro, then I think that could work.
Yeah. Well, they already re-released the Cybertron games on Xbox One, and then they delisted them because they remastered them already.
Well, then I would definitely say that because I wasn't aware they had the remaster. If they've already had the remaster, then I think that those are way easier to get relisted.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of, is Microsoft willing to pay those rights indefinitely, essentially.
Yeah, everybody was like, "I want the Spider-Man games from Activision." I don't know if those are coming.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to. If it did, I think it's going to be a very select few.
Especially
it's going to be like a port of Ultimate Spider-Man or something.
Yeah, especially because Spider-Man is it's an active IP with Sony, right? You're not going to want to.
I mean, I don't think that'll stop you. It's kind of, again, it's a question of how much does Microsoft want to pay to relist an old game. Like, is the reward there? Like, yeah, it'll get you buzz for a day, but is that really going to be something that gets people to sign up for your service? I think that's kind of what they're weighing here, because you look at what Game Pass is going to add right away. It's going to add Call of Duty. It's going to add Diablo. It's going to add Overwatch perks. It's going to add Warcraft and StarCraft on the PC side. You're gonna probably get the old prototype games. You're gonna get probably King's Quest. The King's Quest remake that they did last gen. You're probably gonna get Tony Hawk. You're gonna get Crash Bandicoot. You're gonna get Spyro. Like, those are not small IPs outside of prototype. Like, the rest of those are all pretty notable IPs in the history of gaming. And I think that whatever you get on Game Pass is going to have to sustain you for a few years, because these studios are so entrenched in the Call of Duty machine, with the exception of Toys for Bob. Toys for Bob was just, I think, getting ready to assume their duties of working on Call of Duty, probably for this year's game. Because they just released Wumpa League.
Yeah.
Was that them?
Did they do Wumpa League?
I believe they did Wumpa League. If I could get a fact check while I'm talking. I believe that they are the ones who did that.
Crash Bandicoot, Wumpa League.
Is that them or Beanox? I think.
Well, that didn't help.
So, yeah, if you do that with the three main studios and you shift to an every 4-year release, that allows you to have a COD every 2 years, a 2-year support cycle. Like, that's probably for the best.
Mm-hmm.
That also lets you position it to where if you start the every other year, like you skip 25, for example, just get 24s out. Treyarch's had 4 years to work on it by that point. Great. You skip a year, 26, you have Infinity Ward. 28, which is when Microsoft expects the next consoles to release, you have Treyarch's game for the launch. That means your first fully next generation one in 2030 is Infinity Ward. Your flagship one is the first fully next gen one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that lets you cut bait with Series X at that point and say, hey, you want to play the next one? Go buy this or go buy PlayStation 6. And maybe that kind of reassures Sony of, hey, we don't need your tech right away. Like, we can just have the PS5 version available on your next console. We'll be happy to do the visual upgrade or the fidelity or whatever once you want to provide the dev kits after the console is commercially available.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe make everybody all around happy. I don't know. Then you have the 4 support studio. Well, you have Raven. You still have Raven, which... Sorry, Raven, I think you're stuck doing Warzone.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody that was... I mean, it's similar to High Moon, right? Where everybody left that was working on normal game, or quote-unquote normal, regular games.
Yeah.
And because High Moon, obviously, they were doing Destiny maps for a while, and then they got moved on to Call of Duty, and then Raven... Everybody kind of left. I think what was their last game? Wolverine, or what was the other game they did? Anyways, the Wolfenstein game that they did.
They did Wolfenstein. They've done stuff since, I think.
But regardless, they're like the lead developer on Warzone, so they're not developing anything. I would highly.
I think you could pretty easily break off part of that studio though and be like, hey, we want to carve out like a quarter of your studio to work on a smaller game. Yeah. And I don't think that would necessarily be a problem. Like, I really think those studios are so big. Those 4 lead studios are so big that I think they would like for them to carve out niches other than Call of Duty. I think Sledgehammer's the one of those 4 that gets completely pulled off. I mean, Heck, maybe let Raven work on a like free to play zombies if they don't want to leave Call of Duty altogether. I don't know. Like there's some things you can do there. The four smaller studios are, I think, the interesting story here. You got Demonware, which is a support studio that they're exclusively support. They don't make their own games. They never have, to my knowledge. They are probably stuck doing support work for, I wouldn't say just Call of Duty. I would say they're probably going to be making Halo and Gears maps too.
Yeah.
I would say they're probably going to be, and I think also like if you go to this kind of support cycle, that allows them to help with other games also, with other FPSs.
Yeah.
Toys for Bob, we've kind of talked to them to death because that's the studio that I think like you need to get in there and save as quickly as possible before people leave en masse. Several have already left that worked on the Crash game a couple years back. But just go in there and tell them, hey, you guys can do whatever you want. Do you want to do Crash Bandicoot? Do you want to do Spyro? Or just like open up a suitcase. Here's our old Rare properties that haven't been touched in eons. Would you like to? What if they came out and told us that, hey, we're going to go into super early production, like at next E3, they come out and they say, we're pleased to announce that Toys for Bob, as their first project under the Xbox brand, is staffing up to work on a brand new Banjo-Kazooie game. But to tide you over, we're going to do a Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie collection.
I mean, that would be great. I mean,
I think
what, like a remake, like a remake master,
like the Insane Collection.
Oh yeah,
like a Crash Bandicoot collection.
That would be awesome.
Give me something like that.
That'd be awesome.
Give me something like that. Do that. But when you do that, just I think you could even offer that as an olive branch and be like, Nintendo, you want in on this?
Yeah.
Like, because, it's kind of like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Thanks for standing with us through all this bullshit.
Right. Yeah.
Because those games were originally on Nintendo. Microsoft and Nintendo have gotten along real well when it comes to things like Banjo-Kazooie and Minecraft and stuff like that. You mentioned High Moon Studios. I would suspect that High Moon probably gets pulled off support too and just been like, hey, we're going to keep some of y'all in reserve in case we need you for support, but we'd like for you to work on your own thing. You guys have roots in sci-fi games. Do it. Go strike a deal for those Transformers rights and let them make a new Transformers game. I don't see anything wrong with that. You're gonna have to restaff some of these studios with narrative directors and quest designers and things like that. You're just gonna have to. Like, that is realistically rebuilding those smaller studios at Activision is a big thing. Like, can Vicarious Visions even be saved? It's been absorbed into Blizzard.
Yeah.
The answer is probably no. That team's probably gone.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably so distributed on other projects. It's not even funny.
Maybe you could pull the people who worked at that studio at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine you could probably do something like that, right?
Because the story that I heard was that Activision was going to do Pro Skater 3 and 4, but they'd already made the decision. By the time they saw how good Pro Skater 1 and 2 had done, they had already been absorbed into Blizzard.
Yeah.
And so they canceled it because they realized very quickly no other studio could do it the way that, because they tried it with other internal studios, from my understanding, and nobody could get the gameplay right.
Yeah.
The way that Vicarious could. And so I got to think that maybe they try to save that. Even if it's just to do Pro Skater 3 and 4 and like Underground 1 and 2 remasters.
Yeah.
I have to think they probably try that, or try to bring in some of the old leads from Neversoft if they're still working in games.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, there's so many possibilities they could do with all these studios and IP and swapping around, and I don't know.
The other thing I wanted to bring up regarding Raven, though, the more that I think about it, they are the studio that, of course, they worked on, X-Men Origins Wolverine, like you pointed out. They did Ultimate Alliance 1, Singularity, Quake 4. They also did the X-Men Legends and the Star Wars Jedi Knight games.
Yeah.
Man, just what? They did Hexen also. Hexen was them.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Raven has a pretty storied history. I'd be pretty upset, I think, if I saw them just like become permanently like Call of Duty land.
Yeah.
Even though they have been, but they have a pretty close affiliation with, or history with id Software going back, years and years and years. That's actually kind of funny to think about because I hadn't even made that connection.
Well, I mean, the Call of Duty engine is built off of some sort of altered id tech, right? I mean, at least originally it was. So.
Yeah, and Oh God, what was the other? There was one. I feel like there was one other studio that they're acquiring and all this that I don't. Beanox. That's what I was trying to think of.
Mm-hmm.
Beanox has worked on other things besides just Call of Duty in recent years. They did support work on Pro Skater 1 and 2 and on Crash Bandicoot 4. They also did.
They did a bunch of Spider-Man games at some point.
They did the Crash Team Racing game a couple years ago.
Oh man, that'd be so. Dude, they could do some sort of Crash Team Racing again, or like,
Yep.
like a not Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah. So other things that Beanox has worked on over the years includes Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time, The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, the Skylanders series, which they co-developed with Vicarious Visions and Toys for Bob.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've done support work on the last several Call of Duty games.
Yeah.
Well, not the last several. They haven't supported one since 2020. So that leads me to believe they're probably supporting this year's.
Yeah, probably. You're probably right.
The moral of the story is free some of these developers.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they move Call of Duty off of a yearly schedule, I feel like that would help so much. Free up some of these studios.
Well, I mean, because if you don't switch to like an every couple of year rotation with Call of Duty, the other problem is you're gonna steamroll your own franchises. Because
yeah, I mean, you're gonna want Halo to breathe in there. You're gonna want Gears to breathe in there. You're gonna want, I don't know, Perfect Dark if it ends up.
I mean, the shooter franchises alone that you have, like that's leaving out like shooter adjacent franchises like Perfect Dark.
Yeah,
you have Halo, you have Gears of War, Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake. You do have the rights to Quake, by the way, which we're pretty sure is the next id Software game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have Deathloop, which is shooter adjacent. You have Perfect Dark, shooter adjacent. Like, you're going to have Call of Duty. You're going to have Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not counting things that you have the rights to. So,
Syndicate.
They haven't had anything in recent memory like Hexen and Prototype. So, like, you have to let these other franchises breathe and these other games breathe. It just can't be Call of Duty all the time. I think Phil is smart enough to understand that your premium offerings can be every couple of years. Your everyday game is going to be Warzone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I also do wonder if acquiring the third biggest battle royale in the world, is that going to make them pump the brakes on the initiative to do Halo as a BR?
I don't know. I kind of feel like Halo and Call of Duty are two different audiences for the most part.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure anymore. I'm not sure what the audience for Halo is anymore.
Although, did you see that? Did you see that Black Ops 2 had a bigger player base than Halo Infinite?
I did, and I think that's the other thing is if you announce that Call of Duty is going to take a year off, even if it's next year, but hey, the game's on. We're gonna boot the servers back up on 360.
Mm-hmm.
And like do some server work on like even like the PS4 and Xbox One games. I think a lot of people would flock to those.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little curious to see what ends up happening there. There's just so many talented teams, though, and like I think we've lost sight. When they started working on this deal, it was 10,000 workers. Activision has hired 7,000 workers approximately in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. Like, so you now have to absorb all those employees. You have to figure out how to get them integrated. That's going to take years, by the way, to get them integrated into Microsoft proper, which is largely why they're going to keep Activision Blizzard King separate. And your other great challenge is, how do we transform King from being basically a match 3 developer and a gacha developer into an actual like mobile powerhouse?
Right.
You can have your Candy Crush shit, but y'all are going to hire actual developers who want to make good mobile content.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be them and Blizzard. Mm-hmm. Blizzard's mobile divisions are going to be the cornerstone of what will become Xbox Mobile.
Right. And then Bethesda has what is it called? Roundhouse? That's not right. Roundhouse.
Roundhouse is an actual developer.
Who's their mobile developer?
They're a console developer, not actual developer. That was really poor wording on my part. AlphaDog is the mobile developer.
Yeah, that
they have AlphaDog and they have Bethesda Montreal.
Yeah,
which have worked those studios. AlphaDog is a fairly new team. They've released Mighty Doom, I believe, as their first game. But Bethesda Montreal did Fallout Shelter, Blades, and ESO Legends, the card battler.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what they do with Blizzard's mobile division, because we know that Blizzard has at least one mobile game in development right now that's unannounced, and that they have canceled a Warcraft game in the last couple of months. In like the last 6 to 12 months, they've canceled a mobile game for Warcraft. I have to think the other mobile game is either a brand new IP or it's StarCraft.
I wonder if StarCraft Mobile would make sense.
I mean, if you do it as like a tactical shooter, it would.
Yeah.
Which, let's face it, StarCraft is probably the franchise that needs to move most into the 21st century over there.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
I almost wonder, you and I wondered aloud on one of the last Arsenal X episodes that we did about the initial announcement of this. Could we see the return of something like Call of Duty, of StarCraft Ghost?
Yeah.
Could we see a concept like that play out again?
Yeah. I mean, you could do StarCraft Ghost. You could do StarCraft Tactics in a almost like an XCOM style way, right? That would make a lot of sense.
Flash damage. What are they doing these days?
Right.
Like seriously.
Yeah, I know. I know. I feel like Splash Damage just announced a game. Actually,
they're owned by Tencent now, so I'm like being kind of facetious about this.
They're developing that Transformers Reactivate game.
Very curious to see how that turns out.
It's a VR game, right? That's a VR game. Is that not a VR game?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
The
Transformers license is hopping these days, though.
Nope, coming to PC and consoles. Okay,
interesting. All right. Well, I mean, I think that you could pretty easily do some tactics on that end. Part of me hopes it's just a new IP, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen that Riot has had some success doing that, or having things very loosely connected to League.
Right.
And they've had pretty good success over there, so I'd be interested to see if they could do that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
If maybe Xbox could replicate it.
Yeah. It'd be cool. I hope they can integrate this. I hope they kind of learn some of their lessons from Blizzard or from Bethesda, and kind of being more communicative. I hope they communicate.
They need to be more hands-on.
Right? Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. Phil needs to come in there, and one of the things that he's going to have to do is he has to put somebody he trusts over there. Not because they're like triple the size of Bethesda, but because, let's be honest, most of the reason Microsoft's been able to do this purchase is because of all the workplace issues that Activision and Blizzard had.
Oh, yeah. Gesundheit.
Thank you. I'm starting to feel a little under the weather. That's not good. Got a cold when it's 105 outside.
That's not. Go outside. You'll warm
part
up.
Of the... part of the concern is you got to put somebody you trust in there, and the question becomes, I think, for Phil, I don't think you want anybody from the Kotick regime.
No. Well, I would say Rod Ferguson would be the one I would point at and be like, "Hey, you did a pretty great job of turning Diablo around."
Well, so that's I was going to kind of point to him as like maybe leading Blizzard going forward.
Yeah.
And maybe moving, because there was some controversy around his appointment to run Blizzard in the first place. Maybe moving Mike Ybarra over to be like the Call of Duty franchise director.
Yeah.
My proposal would be, I know you and I both share this same thought that Sarah Bond is being groomed to be Phil's replacement eventually.
Yeah.
What if you gave her Activision Blizzard to run as, a sign of she's waiting in the wings. We want to make sure she's here. We're giving her the most responsibility we possibly can. Or, you move Matt Booty over there and you let her take over Xbox itself. You let her take over Xbox Game Studios. But I think it has to be somebody that Phil trusts. And again, you mentioned Rod Ferguson. I think Rod is pretty in place to help run Blizzard.
Yeah.
As it stands. And they're going to have to find somebody to run the whole mobile side of things. They'll probably leave King's people in charge. I haven't had to read about them, so I assume that things are okay over there.
I assume the candy's still crushing over there.
I assume there are, there's no predatory things going on over there, just on our bank accounts, and bank accounts of seniors everywhere. But I have a friend who calls it. He doesn't call it Candy Crush. He calls it Boomer Crush.
Yeah, my mom plays it, so yeah.
Candy Boomers. But I think that there's you're gonna have to do a big leadership shakeup, and that's anybody who doesn't think you need a leadership shakeup over there. Just like come back when you're ready to talk seriously. Like there's a reason why Microsoft's able to go through with this, and it's because they have so many issues over there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few other people, like higher up Activision people, that I suspect are going to have to go also.
Yeah.
But I do think they'll probably keep some of the members of the board in there during the transitionary phase.
Yeah, sure.
And if I remember reading correctly, they are going to appoint a few of the Activision board to the Xbox board.
Yeah.
They're going to grant them some board seats, while still making sure that Microsoft and Bethesda retain major control. So I'm just curious to see how this all shakes out. I mean, we're just now seeing Bethesda's integration come into play, right? So, and they've been a part of the Xbox family for 2 years, a little over 2 years now, going on 2.5 years. It's been almost 3 years since the announcement. It's gonna take Activision a while. Like, we're probably not gonna see the first real effects of this. Like, Call of Duty coming to Game Pass is such a small thing in the scheme of all of this,
right?
That you're probably not going to see the real effects of this on the industry until like 2026, 2027.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna be relitigating this in like 5 years, going, was this a good idea or not? And I'm probably still going to be sitting here going, there's not enough data. I don't know if I can tell you that, yes or no. Like, I'm dead ass.
Yeah.
I'm dead ass about it. I would expect Activision, and I think Activision is going to go pretty quiet for the rest of the generation, outside of, Call of Duty and, maybe a couple reboots here and there. I don't expect to hear much from them. Just heads down, working.
Yep. Yeah.
And kind of adopt the Blizzard and Bethesda mantras of just fucking work.
Yeah.
Just fucking work. Let's not have any more controversies. Let's, work on rebuilding the culture within this company. Let's get it to a place where we can say proudly, yes, this is a part of Xbox. This is a part of Microsoft. They have our values, and not whatever the fuck was going on at Blizzard and at some of these Activision studios, under Bobby Kotick's watch.
Yep.
And let's make it to where a guy like that can never wield that much power in the industry ever again while we're at it.
Yeah. What do you think is really going to happen to him? You think he's just going to be some sort of a consultant?
I mean, he's a rich fuck, so he's probably going to invest in something. He seems to really like Web3 and blockchain tech, so I expect him to
do that.
I don't know, fund startups, or I mean, I could see him weaseling his way into a company like EA or Ubisoft, honestly.
Oh man, what if he took that money and like either invested in Ubisoft to become, oh my gosh, what if he started leading Ubisoft?
Oh god.
Because
I mean, here's the thing: like him or hate him, Bobby Kotick's strategy made them an assload of money over the last 20 years.
You can't argue that he didn't get shit done. I guess
you can't. I mean, I don't know how much he actually got done. You can't argue that he didn't monetize the hell out of everything.
Yeah.
The first sign there were trouble, and it's funny because we all said it back then too, was the Vince Zampella and Jason West lawsuit when they were fired from Modern Warfare 2. That was the first indicator that something was wrong over there, and it's only taken us like 15 years to get to the bottom of, well, kind of to the bottom of it. It was really all the stuff at Blizzard that pushed this to the forefront, and, him fighting these lawsuits in California. So now I'm kind of curious to see, like, when this is settled, do those get settled too? Does Microsoft just say, we will pay whatever it takes to make this go away now? We are not going to fight this anymore. These guys were in the wrong. It's over. We're not defending them. They were not a part of our company. We will pay whatever settlement we need to. Because, like, the riot settlements just came out recently for the sexual harassment suits over there, and oh boy, those were
yikes.
Those were hefty. Those are hefty. I saw people saying, 3-4 times what I made in my entire tenure there, or for my final year's salary there. Like, just absolutely insane. And I mean, that's what happens when you're a piece of shit and you get found out, or you foster an environment, of, misogynistic or racist behavior. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And Microsoft was really, really hard for you not to think of Blizzard as the place where sex crimes were happening anymore. And really, really, really remember all those good times you had when Overwatch first came out? Remember the summer of Diablo 4? That's the shit we want you thinking about when you play these games and see that logo.
That's true. I mean, all it took was like Diablo 2 Resurrected to change everybody's mind, right? I mean,
I think Diablo 2 Resurrected definitely was a step in that right direction, I think.
Yeah.
Well, not right direction, but it was a step in that direction. Mm-hmm. I would argue, like, the first major public beta for Diablo 4 this year is where a lot of us just went, yeah, okay, Blizzard. Yeah. And it's like, and I'm not saying this to shame anybody who's really enjoyed Diablo 4. I've put in probably like 150 hours of Diablo 4 so far, and I've really, really enjoyed it. But you can enjoy art while also being aware of what happened leading up to that art coming out.
Yeah.
Or in the creation of it. And you can understand why the original game director and why the original like lead writer and things like that had to all be removed from, not just from the game, but from the company.
Yeah.
And why they're never going to work in games again.
Yeah. And also,
and why so many talented people are not there anymore.
Yeah. And you got to realize the talented people that are there, you know, you have to assume if they're still there, they're doing the right thing, and maybe underpaid. I don't know. There's that whole thing going on right now, especially on the writers and the actors strike going on in film and TV. So, you know,
a reckoning is coming.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of major changes, and that's actually on the next episode. That's probably going to be one of our bigger topics because Sega just unionized, and we're going to talk probably a lot about that, how that affects everything too. But
Sega unionized, and it is worth remembering that Raven's QA testers have been unionizing, and Activision has been trying to union bust,
and Bethesda has a union too.
It is worth noting that in the case of any union that springs up under Xbox, Phil Spencer and Satya Nadella have said they will voluntarily recognize those unions. That they are not going to do what Bobby Kotick does, essentially. Now, what form those negotiations take is totally different, but this acquisition, when I say that we won't know the effects on the industry, I do think that this acquisition, I think that people at Activision Blizzard are going to see that the Raven QA team, if they unionize, they're going to be like, oh shit, they were able to? This is an industry that notoriously does not unionize and does not have a union, but desperately needs it.
Yeah.
Get ready, because once that tsunami starts, it's not stopping.
Yeah.
And if it starts happening at one major company, at one major platform holder or one major publishing arm, and it's not happening at others, guess what? Workers are gonna look and they're gonna be like, those guys that are union workers are getting a lot better of a deal than we are. Guess what? That's how you're gonna attract talent. You're gonna attract talent based on what you're able to offer workers. There are going to be people who will flock to that. So guess what? That's like that, and welcome to capitalism. That is something that is going to happen eventually. Whoever takes that first step and is going to have to realize, you're probably going to lose money in the short run, but guess what? You're going to get so many creatives it doesn't even matter. You're going to get so many creatives and you're going to be able to put out such a better product if your workers are happy that you're not going to care.
100%.
So, and it's not even like radical requests that anybody's asking for either. Whenever they unionize and whatnot, it's not radical asks. You know, they want cost of living increases, they want better working hours, and they want no crunch. The end. Microsoft clearly doesn't have a problem with crunch because they can't get a fucking game out. So, I don't think you have to worry about that over there.
Oh, burn.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, I know. I'm just saying. Yeah. Well, Josh, do we have anything else we want to talk about before we head on out?
No, I do think we had a question tonight.
Did
though.
we?
I believe we had a question from Todd.
Oh yeah, we did have a question from Todd. Okay, so our friend over from Secret Friends Unite, Todd Oxtra, he asked. I forgot about this. I wish we would have answered it during that segment of the show. Do you like Game Pass Core, or should they have just added console online play to console Game Pass?
Console online play to console Game Pass.
Yeah, they should have just done that. Should they offer a discounted annual plan for other tiers?
Yes.
I think they did for Game Pass regular for at some point.
They used to, I believe.
Yeah.
I think even if you were to buy Ultimate, you might get... No, I don't think you do get a discount if you buy a full year up front.
Well, Ultimate, you can't buy it. You can only buy it in 3-month chunks.
Yeah, they need to fix that. They need to offer... Again, sacrifice a little bit. Sacrifice like $20 a profit off of each sub if you can let us do it for a full year.
Yeah. I
just saying.
Yeah.
Charge me for 10 and give me 2 months free. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how that all works. And do you think we're still getting a family plan?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
I think that part of the reason why it got removed from the beta is, one, because they're going to change up the tiers, but two, they need to figure out if this plan is even going to work.
Yeah.
And then it's, well, do we offer the family plan just for Game Pass Basic or for Ultimate? And spoiler alert, it's going to be for Ultimate.
Yeah.
There's no reason to do it for Basic or for Game Pass Console, because Game Pass Console doesn't have online multiplayer.
Right.
I'm still calling it Xbox Live. It doesn't have Xbox Live.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, man, I don't want to rehash what we already talked about, but man, not adding online to this console Game Pass thing is so sketch.
Man, that is just that's such an own goal.
Oh man,
like how do you bungle that? Is just what I want to know.
I don't know. Thanks for your question, Todd. Remember, everybody, you look for the tweet for the questions. I'm gonna get a proper question set up going soon. You can join the Boss Rush Network Discord as well and leave questions in the Xbox chat channel. We'll answer them from there as well. Josh, that's all we have.
I think that's all we have.
I want to, thank you for your time tonight, Josh. I appreciate it. Appreciate you.
Of course.
Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Josh_Finn, 2 N's. And I'm going to experiment with Threads a little over the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
You guys can find me. Same username over there.
Yep.
I'm going to try and use that a little bit more, shift a little bit more of my activity. And of course, you can find me in the Boss Rush Games Discord.
Yeah. And you can find me at I am Corey HD on all social media, including Threads. I've been just automating Twitter stuff, and I've been using Threads more and more. A lot more engagement over there. It feels like I think a lot more people are just excited to be off of Twitter. So, either way, you can find me there. You can listen to this show every other Tuesday. If we have something relevant, like an interview or a spotlight or something, you'll find those in the off weeks on this feed. It's not necessarily going to be me and Josh, but if it's a game that's coming to Xbox, it might show up on this feed on the off weeks. If not, you can find the regular show every other week here on YouTube, on podcast feeds. Thank everybody for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye. If you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/BossRushMedia, and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dirrig, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support.